hello, and welcome to episode 109 of the No Direction Pathfinder podcast. Ryan, we have got some special guests with us. Tell the audience who we have brought on board for this episode.
Well, we are joined by two members of the Dead Gentlemen. We have the president of Dead Gentlemen Productions, Mr. Don Early.
Hello.
Hello, Don.
Good to be here.
Actor Scott C. Brown, who in the gamer's Dorkness Rising may have set the record for most on-screen deaths.
Very much so, yeah. I think he's in progress of joining us.
And for those of you who aren't familiar with these gentlemen, they are the Dead Gentlemen. They are the makers of several cult classic films in our hobby, including The Gamer's Dorkness Rising, The Gamer Hand of Fate, Houses and Humans. Did I get that one correct?
Humans and Households.
Humans and Households. My apologies.
Mm-hmm.
I forget the name of the fifth one. Gamers.
Gamers Natural One.
Okay, Gamers Natural One. Demon Hunters.
Yep.
And Gamers Live, and lots of amazing stuff, actually. Most specifically, we're going to be here to talk about the Gamer's Dorkness Rising, because that is currently undergoing a Kickstarter campaign to get a Blu-ray edition of this movie released, which would be really fun to have around. And that Kickstarter has been an amazing success, as far as we can tell. Is that not correct?
Oh my gosh, I just can't even believe how much it's taken off. I was going to be quite happy if we not just I knew we'd reach our goal, but I really just wanted to unlock the dual layer version so we could cram a whole bunch of stuff onto it. And yeah, we killed that in like the first week. So we have great fans.
One of the reasons I'm glad to see this is actually it's becoming harder and harder to track down a copy of this movie, even on DVD format. And I remember at one time this thing was on Netflix, and so super easy to get. And so I've got my own copies. I've got of all your movies. But to get like new, every time I bring on a new player to my gaming group, of course, eventually jokes and quotes from your movies comes up during gameplay, because I think that's unanimous that you're displacing Monty Python at this point as far as the hobby is concerned. So getting them copies and getting them able to watch it is becoming increasingly difficult. So definitely glad to see this is alive. And this is not your first Kickstarter either. You've Hand of Fate was a Kickstarter. Handled very well. You did recording at Gen Con, and that was also a Blu-ray, so you know what you're doing on this, or at least we hope.
We've certainly learned our lessons on things that we did well and things that we made mistakes on, and I think the Gamer's Hands of Fate was Blu-ray. We started into the Blu-ray foray through Zombie Orpheus Entertainment, sort of our partner company, headed by Ben Dobbins and various others. And they kind of went right into the Blu-ray of The Gamer's Hands of Fate, thinking that, it could be just like authoring your own DVD, because we've done that for years and it's quite easy. Well, it turns out it's a lot harder than you think, and so that when they learned a lot and they were so kind of bummed out by it, they said, we're never going to do one of these again. And so in keeping with that promise, we're paying somebody else to make it. So we're making the professionals do it, which is why it's we needed a Kickstarter, because it's a little bit more upfront.
What were some of your biggest surprises the first time you kickstarted something?
I think it was just, I've kind of described Kickstarters as like one part winning the lottery and the other part popularity contest. And it's sort of like watching, and you launch it and you see whether or not your idea was as good as you thought it was, or if people really don't care. And so it's really going through several of these iterations and trying to figure out. And the other thing too is Kickstarters have evolved since we started working with it. So we're in every time we approach a new Kickstarter, we have to sort of park it and research what's going on out there, what's working, and see how things have changed so that we can adapt.
Now, I felt incredibly old a minute ago when I was just on Internet Movie Database, and The Gamers came out 12 years ago?
13 years ago.
13 years ago? How is that even possible?
2002. Is that 13? Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it seemed like it was brand new to me when I found it probably 8 years ago. So how is this something that's just continued to gain momentum, gain new fans over the years, the decade?
We lucked out.
Oh.
That's a lot of it. You know, we made the gamers for us. We were gamers, and we had just come off of doing 2 feature-length films, student films or independent films. So Matt Vansel, who'd written everything so far, decided to go ahead and try his hand at directing as well, and wrote The Gamers as sort of a short film homage to our gaming experiences. And we really didn't have any clue that it would resonate as much as it did. But as we started showing it to various audiences or whatever, it just took off, and we were surprised. And we've been essentially playing catch up ever since.
I love, like, it's a lot of in-jokes, but it's fresh in-jokes, like sneak attacking with a ballista because there's nothing in the rules that says you can't.
Yeah.
But how do non-gamers take to that kind of humor?
You know, it's a bit mixed, I think. Scott, what's your experience been from folks?
I've got a lot of people that like it, both who are gamers and who aren't.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're already of a SCA or, more of that bent of your learning or your experience, and you like Monty Python and all that stuff, you dig the film. If you're like my parents, who I sat down and watched it with one errant Thanksgiving evening, it's like them looking at Mars. They didn't get it. My mom's question was, why do you have to go around with all the girls? And my dad wanted a full rundown of how to play D&D.
That's a good reaction.
Yeah, that's great.
It's a great reaction, but not one that I'm going to have on Thanksgiving evening.
Right. Yeah,
You
I would
said-
say my experience have been relatively similar. I feel like there's a lot that does translate that I didn't think it would, and then some things that just don't. I mean, I think there's a major impression that it's quite niche, and it is, but I think that's become less so because I think now playing D&D and gaming and RPGs and stuff have become kind of geek chic now. It's not. I don't think there's quite as much of the social stigma as it once was when we first made the film.
Yeah, I mean,
Have you ever been... Go ahead, Pam.
I said, yeah, back. I mean, it's been 13 years ago. This is before the YouTube phenomenon. This is before, even we've been at this for going on 7 years now, and that's way before us and our show. The Gamers itself existed at a time when it would have been like #1 hit on YouTube, if YouTube existed back then. And so you've sort of had to evolve that to today, and we've got things like Will Wheaton's Tabletop and everything making geek. If you go on to Twitch right now, the network we're on, you can find dozens of channels of people playing D&D.
Yeah, it's a whole new world.
Since you brought up that we're on Twitch, in case anyone hasn't noticed that's listening to us live, this is our first time using Twitch.tv, our new Twitch TV channel, twitch.tv/no direction. Param, I know there's some way that they can leave comments, but you're going to have to tell me as much as you're telling the listeners. Where can they leave comments and where can I read them?
Okay, at twitch.tv/no direction, it has a built-in chat room that runs off the side. Feel free to go there and chat, and I am paying attention to the chat. If you have any questions at all for us, or more specifically for the dead gentleman here, please ask them, and we will do our best to get answers. If for those of you that are used to watching us on YouTube after the fact as opposed to live, do not worry. These videos will be going right onto YouTube, and you probably won't notice anything except an improvement in quality of the video, which has been our motivation for moving to Twitch. So it is also very important that if you have feedback for this transition or the quality of the show, to please leave it on the chat messages. But unlike YouTube, these chat messages do not save like they do on our YouTube chat. So leave comments on YouTube or contact us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/no direction, or go to nodirectionpodcast.com and leave a comment on this video there, which I now get email notifications when you do that, so I will actually read them now. Or email us at nodirection@hotmail.com. And sorry for the contact spill there, guys.
Now, Don, you've been there since the beginning of The Dead Gentleman, or as I like to think of it, the early days. But, Scott, how did you get involved?
Sorry, run that by me again.
How did you get involved with The Dead Gentleman?
Well, Christian Doyle and I were doing a theater production of A Few Good Men, and the gentleman playing Santiago went to college at PLU with the DG guys and said, hey, there's a film that's going to be holding auditions. And we were like, cool. So Christian, myself, and two good-looking guys from the cast all auditioned. And Christian and I got callbacks, and the good-looking guys didn't. And they were all bummed out. And Christian and I said, hey, leave us some room. So that's how we became associated there, just actor for hire. And since then, it's been a decade of service and friendship.
Oh. What do you think about you? What do you think it was about you that attracted you? Let's try this again. What do you think it was about you that attracted you to that attracted the dead gentleman to you? What do you think it was about you that worked?
The fact that I could memorize lines.
Nice.
I was originally, little known fact, but it's out there. I was originally cast as the farmer, the role that Ed Stark had, with 3 lines, and I was kind of bummed because Christian was going to kill me, and that was okay. It's fine. I was invited to come to the first all-cast read-through of the script, and I figured this is the only time I'm ever going to be in a film. I will always do theater on stage, so I'm going to go to this thing. And then I was asked to read one of the other characters because that person wasn't available. And I said, well, I've only got 3 other lines. I'm pretty sure I can do it. So I read for the game store owner, Leo. And 2 days later, Ben Dobbins gave me a call and said that he had some good news and bad news. The bad news was they weren't going to use me as the farmer.
Oh.
And the good news was they were going to increase my line load significantly. So that's how that came about. Did that answer the question now that I think about it?
No, I asked you your favorite color, sir.
That would be black.
Oh, wow.
Helpful. Goes with everything.
Exactly.
Very
It's
bardic
slim,
color choice.
and it's slimming. Yeah, I think what worked about, well, actually, I think one of the things that worked for me with Dead Gentleman when we started all this was sort of the camaraderie of wanting to get a group very much like a Python-esque type troupe of people involved. Matt Vancel and I had very briefly in 1999, I believe, crossed paths in an improv group. And so it was we kind of everybody got each other, and it was just a good fit socially. So I think that was the biggest thing.
Now the Pythons shared the writing and producing load as well, though. Is that something have you ever gone to that side of the production?
Yes, I produced a day shoot for the Humans and Households web series up here in Seattle. Andy Doporowski and I have our own production company, Two Bards, that we do some stuff with, and I like that. From a Dead Gentleman standpoint, I have not been involved at that level yet, but Don and I have had talks, and
we're working on it. Yeah, Scott's awesome, and he can get it done. So it's just been a matter of DG getting our asses together and having stuff to do. So
let's go back to your formative years. What got you guys into gaming? I guess starting with Don.
Well, they were already gaming, and I'd never played any RPGs, Dungeons and Dragons, or anything. I had some exposure to it in high school, but I was invited to a group with Nathan Rice and Steve Wolbrecht and some of the guys, and I started work. My very first. This is actually poignant. My very first character I ever created was a specialty priest for Kelemvor in 2nd edition D&D, and his name was Mort Kemnon. And wouldn't you know it, years later, Matt Vancel would steal that name and throw it in his film. So my character gets to get immortalized in movies. I'm excited about that.
It does seem.
And what about you, Scott? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Pam.
Oh, I was just going to say, it does seem that the perks of getting famous in the gaming community is that your character starts showing up in official things.
It's pretty cool.
I've got Eric,
known
known as Ostog the Unslain character right here. Sorry, go ahead. Scott, how did you get involved? Yeah, or so, what was your gaming experience?
Well, my gaming experience was with D&D back in the whenever it came out, and I was in grade school, and my buddy James Rader and I cracked open the box and had no one else to play with, so we basically colored everything that was black and white, and that would be it until I got cast in the film, and we ran some games.
Did, like, reading over the script, were things like dawning on you, like, I finally understand?
No, because I read the script before we played the games, so I think Don may remember some very comical conversations we had early on. I was aware enough about it that it made sense to me. I like science fantasy, I like science fiction, so the world, the characters, all of that made sense, but the literal line of, and I think it was the only take that we could use in the film when Nathan says, I assume you're going, as a fighter again, and I say, no, I'm going as a bard, and he's like, really? I'm like, how different can they be? That was a legitimate statement. And then when it was explained to me, I don't think I kept a straight face through another take. And if you look at the movie really closely, right before they cut from Nathan, he starts to grin because none of us could keep it together after that revelation hit me. So I finally had to come out on a con circuit and tell everybody that I am not a well-versed gamer from a long standpoint, but since then, Don ran an Eberron campaign that I was a part of. We both played on a Serenity game for a while, but now with my acting taking off a little bit more, it's really hard to commit to the always being there for the game, and I do not want to mark the red myself.
We do have, I know that you've got to go in about 15, 20 minutes, so why don't we just take a step away from the gamers and talk about you. Your acting is taking off. Can you tell us some of the other projects you're involved in?
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of small independent features up here. Had 2 screen at the Seattle International Film Festival. One is called The Hollow One, which is a horror film. Another one with Billy Zane and Kevin Alejandro, who was on Arrow for a while. It's called Western Redemption, that Cornelia Moore directed, and Tony Becerra, who's a long-standing DG AD, worked on. I shot a pilot last year called Camp Abercorn that they're shopping around to see if they can get picked up. Probably on a digital media network like either DirecTV or Vimeo, as opposed to going to a Netflix or a traditional cable or network television route. For some reason, they're really enamored with the digital delivery. And that's got Brad Leland from Friday Night Lights in it. Wonderful, wonderful guy from Dallas, Texas. And he and I became fast friends, and that was fun. Brian Lewis, Trin Miller, myself shot a film last year called Depth that hopefully will be out. And they have a, what is it? Is it Starmazer? Either Starmazer or Imagos Films is on Twitch as well. The twitch.tv, and they've got streams on there. So yeah, it's just a lot, and like we said tonight, I'm teaching an acting class here in Seattle, and I may open that up and start teaching one down in Tacoma next month.
Excellent, congratulations. It's a tough field to get into.
It is very difficult, and I made the conscious choice to pursue that and don't have another job, so I've been doing some web development and editing actor reels and things like that, trying to keep things flowing, and so far I can pay my bills and every other day eat.
Nice. And just to double check, did anyone else hear something that sounded like there was a ghost on the audio track?
It's just you.
Yeah,
just me?
We
all right.
really don't want to haunt the audio track. It's already unstable.
It wasn't a cute ghost like whoo, it was like shh. But okay, if I'm the only one that heard it, then pray for me.
Well, Scott, you mentioned
Yes, sir.
that your acting career is starting to pick up. Do you think that your work on The Gamers was part of the success there?
I think that it was part of the success in that it opened a door for me to see that there were opportunities. DG/Zoe have worked on some other projects, but for the most part are very nuclearly contained in that it's very self-sufficient in their projects, much like who does Super Troopers? Thunder Lizards or something.
Broken Lizard.
Huh?
Broken Lizard.
Yeah, Broken Lizard. And so things are, and it was down in Tacoma and was sort of outside of the mainstream of the Seattle film community. But then everybody got out and married and jobs and working, and all of a sudden that tight nucleus in the Tacoma area has bled out to anywhere from Olympia in the south central part of the state all the way up to the north where Don is in Bellingham. And so that sort of crept out at the same time that I started branching out into other things. And it was great to be able to say that, hey, I have some local pedigree and worked with these people, and pretty soon things start crossing over in what you work on. Like Tony Becerra has brought me on to some other projects that he does, and Kat Ogden, who was one of the producers in Journey Quest, has brought me on to other projects. But Don and Matt and Ben pretty much work within the Zoe DG confines, and so the crossover isn't there. Don's not working on 4 other projects that aren't DG that allow me to cross over into those. But I think the association and the experience that I gained and the knowledge and also the openness of the group for me to learn production sides of things and be open and being able to wear many hats, much like I got my theater degree from a teaching college. And if you go to any acting school, you don't go on stage until you're a junior or a senior. So for 2 years, you're just doing book learning and nothing practical. And for me, where I went, my first show, I was the lead in Shakespeare's Merchant of Venice. I was 40 hours of set construction. I was head of props. And I did painting and lights. So I learned a lot about it. And in coming up through the DG school, if you will, we were actors, but we were also learning many other things. And so now I can do editing, I can do sound, I can do light, grip, and electric are still foreign to me. But the production side of things, getting people together, the networking, those things, I firmly believe are all birthed out of that nucleus of the DG projects.
And it's made you a bit of a Renaissance man.
Well, I would think that too. It's not just like the project doesn't make you the most well-known, or Gamers Darkness Rising didn't put your name on the map or anything. It's being introduced to another way to act or be an actor and to gain access to a new community. But people like Scott, I mean, you still got to do a lot of hard work, and Scott's worked some of the hardest, I think, and you know, especially with acting, I think that you just have to be getting out there and working and doing a lot of different stuff as much as you can. And Scott's really, I've watched him pretty much from Dorkness Rising on do exactly that. I mean, he's just busted his keister and really fallen in love with acting and entertainment and that sort of thing. And yeah, so yeah, I wouldn't say from a DG standpoint that we've gotten him all this stuff. He's really done the work. It's just bringing all these people together opens doors that you just don't necessarily even know that's going to happen.
Now, we are a Pathfinder podcast, and I couldn't help but notice that on the back of the Gamers DVD is the Paizo logo.
Yes.
So, Don, do you think you can summarize your relationship or the dead gentleman's relationship with Paizo?
Well, they own our souls. No. Paizo, that relationship started when we got really tired of running our own store and just couldn't put in the hours anymore. And so I sat down and had lunch with Lisa Stevens and talked about, you know, because it had been mostly, you know, just gaming products, and movies were kind of a new thing to Paizo a bit. And so we sat down and kind of, she laid out terms that were awesome for me, because then we didn't have to do any work, and we just shipped the product to them, and they got it in their hands, and they shipped us a check, and that was awesome. So that's been going on for 11 years now, and in that particular DVD that you have of the Gamers, the director's cut, yep, that one. Paizo partnered with us to actually create that DVD cover, and they really supported us in creating that particular DVD. And so that's been a really special sort of partnership product that we've been able to get out there and push. And I am amazed that 13 years later, that movie is still selling.
How well is it selling without, giving anything away?
Not well, but I still get money from it, and it's interesting, that has happened, and I don't know, we've been talking a lot about what else do we do with it? Do we package it with the other gamers and that sort of thing? And we may end up doing that at some point, but it's just been awesome to have that partnership, to not have to worry about that, and to have such a great supporter in Paizo. They've really helped us reach our audience when other avenues have failed us.
Is that how you got Monty Cook and Sean K. Reynolds to do cameos in Dorkness Rising?
Oh gosh, that certainly helped, I think. I remember a few of us sort of pounding the pavement, as it were. Monty Cook did an interview and also a commentary track on the original Gamers, and so we had already had a kind of relationship with Monty already, and so that was really fun. And so I think through him and through Paizo and other things, we started seeking out creators of Dungeons & Dragons, in particular 3rd edition, and we'd gamed with a few of them as well, Ed Stark and Sean Reynolds. Actually, I don't think I've ever gamed with Sean Reynolds. I need to fix that. But yeah, we just started going around to, and then Gen Con actually created a lot of friendships. Going to Gen Con, we were approached, which we didn't know how to deal with, because I felt like in some ways that people were approaching us as sort of these celebrities or something, and we were like, what? No, you're Monty Cook, you're Ed Stark, you're the celebrity, we know who you are. Sean K. Reynolds and Dave Noonan, and holy crap, you're like our gaming gurus, and so that was just a fun time to make new friends, and suddenly we felt like we were in the in crowd, and so it was an easy ask to say, hey, come be in our film. And they did. And they were awesome.
Now,
you want to talk about the Kickstarter? Oh, no, go ahead, Perm.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, now, just to sort of go back to the beginnings of it, obviously you guys did the Gamers, and the Gamers was successful. How did it go from, hey, we did the Gamers, to let's do a sequel to a dorky game movie in which no other dorky game movies had ever really been successful before?
Well, it was because of the success of the original Gamers that we decided to entertain the thought of doing a sequel. And originally it was called Gamers 2nd Edition. And I think that the biggest problems with the original Gamers is technical quality, its length. Those are kind of the two big ones that were preventing us from being able to get it into larger distribution channels, get it out there and a little bit more widely known. So we got to thinking about doing a feature film, so making it longer. And originally it was just going to be on mini DV, standard definition. But again, folks, this is back before high definition was standard and easy to get on your cell phone. What I now call the Franken camera fell into our laps of this beast, strange camera that could theoretically shoot in high definition, and so it did. It sort of, it's a very complicated technical answer to that question, but it is now in full HD, and so there's that. And so we solved those two issues with the Gamer's Dorkness Rising, which was technical quality and the length, and clearly that was the right move.
Yeah, I mean, of the Gamers movie, it's definitely, at least with my group, it's the favorite. Not that the first one and the third one aren't loved, but it definitely...
Sure.
When all the quotes are coming, it's usually from Dorkness Rising.
I rate a lot of movies for their rewatch value, and even that one has a high rewatch value for me. I don't get tired of Dorkness Rising. And I think the original Gamers is the same way for me too. I probably have it memorized.
I get a real like Evil Dead to Evil Dead 2 relationship between Gamers and Dorkness Rising. There's like very much the same heart and soul to it, but Dorkness Rising just kind of does everything a little bit better.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
You mean the inverse relationship then, right, Ryan? Because Evil Dead 1 was clearly superior to Evil Dead 2.
Moving on.
I don't know. I think I'm on the boat with Ryan.
Okay.
Thank you.
Scott.
So you've got a Kickstarter. You've... Go, Pam.
Okay, sorry. Scott, I know that you're going to have to leave us here in about 5 minutes. What were some of your favorite parts when you were doing the filming for Dorkness Rising?
Listening to Nathan complain about aluminum chainmail. No. That's such a sore subject. More sore for Nathan.
Literally.
It was awful. It was what was it, a full week at Fort Flagler listening to him whine about having to be in aluminum chainmail. It was epic. It was amazing.
Yeah.
That's why I want in Gamers 4, should it ever happen, that I'm in full plate, so that he can see what it's like to really wear stuff. No, I think just like this story, the friendships that I developed over the course of Dorkness are some of my best friends today. And I can tell that story because Nathan doesn't care, and we're friends, and he knows that if we didn't care, we wouldn't be telling that story. I'm sure they have plenty of teal tight stories about me, and it was a lot of fun. I do remember when we shot all the real world stuff, Don and I having many conversations in the garage, asking, why am I even a part of this? Because Leo is just picked on. Christian and my friendship is developing right before everybody's eyes on screen. All of that stuff that we do was not scripted, was real. Wet willies are wet willies. The $5 bill in my armpit is the $5 bill in my armpit, and it really goes in his mouth. When I grab him to tell him where he can put the stopwatch, that sound is really me hitting his hollow, girly chest. And, it was... I said, why am I here? I don't understand this guy's role. And Don just kept telling me, wait until the fantasy sequence. And that was it. I mean, shooting at Flagler was... it was amazing. It was just... I finally got both Leo and Flynn by playing Flynn.
Mm-hmm.
But
you had to do Leo first, don't you think? Yeah, because that helped to make him so much more grounded and a real character. I mean, not character as in a script character, but just a real person, a three-dimensional somebody. And then to have gotten through all of that and turn around and play Flynn made it really easy in Gamers 3 to now play the majority of it as Leo, because now I understand that guy and where he's coming from. Yeah.
So I think the friendships and the first 3 days, I think we shot 16 pages a day when people said that that's twice as many pages as any professional crew will shoot. And
There's a reason for that, by the way.
yes, there's a really big reason. But, those things that we didn't know we couldn't do, we did because everybody just wanted to make a movie.
Yeah.
And that was really cool.
Now that's something you
You
brought
guys
up.
ready to talk about the Kickstarter?
Sorry, Ryan. You're on about the second delay.
Sorry, Farum. I was giving you plenty of space that time.
You brought up something here that was really interesting, in that when we watch the movie and we play these games, it's too easy to think of, you filmed it in the order we saw it. So you guys filmed all of the out-of-character stuff first and then went and filmed the character block?
Months apart, in fact. We shot all of the, what we call the real-world sequence, all of the out-of-character stuff in January of 2005, and then we regrouped in, I think it was March, April, and we started and shot all of the fantasy world stuff.
I think it was April, May, because
was it April, May?
The minute we finished shooting the real world, Christian and I went and did a funny thing happened on the way to the Forum for a theater company in Enumclaw, and we would have had 6 weeks of rehearsal, 2 weeks of production, and literally we closed that show on a Sunday, and the following Saturday morning everybody was piling into my Durango to drive and start shooting the rest of the film.
Yeah. Yeah, and so the break between January and April, the rest of us were scrambling trying to figure out how we were going to shoot the rest of the movie. Because let me tell you, Dorkness Rising was the movie that, if anything could go wrong, it did. But it is the film that wouldn't die. To this day, in fact, I feel like there are so many forces that have tried to kill this movie for the past 10 years, longer than that actually, and it just won't go. And it is the true underdog hero of, I think, probably most of our films.
So let's talk about the Kickstarter.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's coming out on Blu-ray, which, when you've got a movie that's 10 years old, usually you wouldn't think that you would have been forward-thinking enough to plan for a high-definition Blu-ray appropriate disc. And yet that's not the case with Dorkness Rising.
Well, it occurred to us, so again, so we decided to shoot in high definition so that we could get it on Netflix, for instance, and get it into, but believe it or not, at the time, movie rental stores still existed. I don't know about other parts of the country, but they don't hardly exist here. So, and so it would get us into those stores. It would get us into Hollywood Video and Blockbuster and various other things, and sort of legitimize us. Well, it did get on Netflix. It did get on DVD and get into a lot of distribution. Netflix has a really funny cycle with how they do things, and so eventually it came off of Netflix, and we've been fighting to get it back on there ever since. But Netflix, though we probably never made $1 from it, was probably the best thing that ever happened to the movie from an exposure perspective. And we got a ton of people finding us for the first time through that. So, all that said, though, it's never actually been on a high definition format, like physical media. And so we thought, shoot, that needs to happen. and so we decided to, and so because we decided we're going to do that, because we have this 720p master file, Ben Dobbins, who is a techno wizard, like in a literal sense, like he's magic with just weird stuff, and so he decides to go in and meticulously up-res the entire film to 1080p, and he does it. And I don't know how much horsepower it took to render that thing, but he went through and it's never looked better. It's incredible what he's done with that. And we've had 3 or 4 really technically savvy people, photographers and whatnot, take a look at it, and they're like, you have stretched those pixels to the maximum. It can't, when we say it will never look better than this, it is true. This is as far as we can push it, and so we're really excited to give it one big last hurrah of an amazing disc. The DVD of it that currently exists, what I really like that they called it the digitally redungeon mastered edition DVD, is really cool. No, I think I have a copy of it right here, and a Jen page on the cover, and has a lot of stuff on it. And Blu-ray just has way more space as well. Of course, we're going to be working with a bigger file, so it's going to be super loaded. It's going to have some really great stuff. We've unlocked a lot of brand new commentaries that we're excited to go record and add to that, and make it a really rewatchable experience over and over again. Make it kind of new. And yeah, what else can I talk about? Just Kickstarter.
Well, how about the way you broke the Kickstarter down? Because you didn't just do stretch goals, you've also got milestones based on backers. Why did you do that right away?
Well, one of the things that I knew going into designing this Kickstarter, there's kind of an art and a science to it, because there's a lot of number crunching, but then you also have to conceptually design each reward level and decide, as you do that, where do you think most people are going to gravitate towards on those reward levels. And as I put it together, I knew immediately that the $30 level would be the most popular, because it's what I would want. And I think just in a general sense, when you look at it, the question I get is, what is the level that I can physically get the reward, or physically get the product that you're making? And, what is the least amount of money that it takes me to be able to get that? And then if you can make it even cooler as the campaign goes on, awesome. So that meant that if $30 was my reward, and if I averaged it out, that meant that probably the average per backer was going to be about $50 per reward, because there's going to be higher level rewards as well. And so how many backers would it take to really get the maximum? And so that just meant that we were going to need a lot of backers. And I looked at a number of campaigns out there that had focused on social media and shareability, and driving not from a dollar figure, but from actual, from a backer perspective, how many backers they could get. And so I just kind of stole a lot of their ideas and didn't really plan enough far ahead, I feel like, because it worked, and it's been really rewarding to see. It's just felt really good to see the support that people still have for a movie that, we've been a part of for 10 years or better. It's just kind of really cool to see.
A lot of the stretch goals, it feels like, were really targeted towards me. because I love commentary tracks on DVDs,
Mm-hmm.
and the majority of the things you can unlock are new, especially some of them rather wacky extra commentary tracks.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of, we're all right now busting keisters trying to get everybody together at one time to record them, because we're like, oh crap, now we have to go do it. I think the one I'm personally excited about is the pirate commentary, and I got the perfect pirate guy to do that. And you've seen him in Journey Quest. He's one of the two really funny orcs, the bald-headed one, Jeremy Spray, and he's fantastic. And he actually has gone to different fairs and whatnot as a pirate, and gets, he's a big hit with the kids and stuff. So we're going to get him and a couple others, and it's going to be hilarious. I know it's going to be great. But yeah, there was just a lot of, I think what's awesome about our fans and the access that we have through technology and social media is that we can ask you what you want on your DVD, or at what is interesting to you. And, we can make stuff up that's interesting to us, but when we run out of ideas, we'd like to hear from you and find out what would be exciting and fun for you. And so that's kind of where a lot of those came from. And now we're just, we're going out there and figuring out how to make all that happen now.
Scott,
it's a good problem to have.
Scott, I just want to double check. Are you still with us, first of all?
I am. I was just heading out to the car to take off, and I was going to see how long my signal would last. And if
so
I got cut off, to say thank you very much for having us on the podcast. I know I'm leaving early, and I apologize.
Oh no, thank you.
That's
so
all
much.
right. We weren't sure exactly who would be joining us, so you were a surprise for us that we got earlier today. So thank you for joining us.
Yes.
Oh, you're very welcome. I'm going to give one plug.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Absolutely.
twobards.com is Andy and my podcast and production website. So Two Bards on Facebook and Twitter, and twobards.com. You can find us and hear about other things that are Zoe, DG, and otherwise related.
Okay, excellent. We'll make sure we put the links to that in our show notes for this episode, and definitely be checking that out. And thank you. Now, when you leave, when does the next 17 of you join the podcast?
That will probably be in 10 minutes.
Okay, excellent. All right, well, thank you so much.
I think there's a slight delay, the recharging one. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Have a good class.
See you, Scott.
Thanks. Bye.
Don, I'm once again going to compliment your foresight, because you've got a making of Dorkness Rising and a behind-the-scenes featurette as two different upgrades.
Yeah.
These are not the things you could do after the fact. So you actually had somebody making these featurettes or doing some behind-the-scenes filming while you were in production?
Well, we were in production, yeah. We had a really awesome guy who tagged along, essentially, and made the making of featurette, Zane Beatty, my daughter. And so that was a lot of fun to have somebody actually do that. Sorry.
It's all right, as long as it's not another ghost.
No. The ghost of 2.5-year-old.
Well, that's creepy.
Yeah. It's only because she's behind this wall.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, so that was it. Again, like, I wouldn't have the foresight to think about getting that done if I didn't have somebody already interested in doing it. And that's kind of how a lot of this works, is that we go around and we start asking people, okay, we want to do something. They're like, oh, can I do a making of? Yes, you were hired. You can do that. And so that's kind of how a lot of that ends up happening. I ended up cutting the first outtake reel because I was really excited about making outtakes. So,
all I noticed when I was looking at some of the stretch go rewards, one of them were for more subtitles, for different languages. I saw D20 was a language listed. What's up with that?
That's so I actually haven't seen it yet, but it's on. It's actually on this DVD already, and so one of the very first stretch goals that we hit for unlocking the dual layer is essentially taking everything that's already on here and putting it onto the Blu-ray, because the Blu-ray wasn't the single layer wasn't going to hold all that. So now it will. And so that was one that they did, and so it's people taking what is going on in the movie and translating it into gaming terms and gaming roles, and I would have to say it's probably 3.5 rules and or at least D20, I don't know, but yeah, we should go watch it and find out.
And you kind of stealth announce Gamers the Series and Gamers 4. I don't know how publicly you've been discussing these in the past, but they are mentioned in the Kickstarter. Mm-hmm. So what are the plans for Gamers the Series and Gamers 4?
Yeah, so the Gamers is always something we're constantly trying to decide what direction to go. There's never a question of whether or not it's going to happen, just a matter of when. And there's so many projects that have been shuffled around. Once again, we go where the energy is. We go where the excitement and when there's enough people going, I want to do this, then we go do that. And Gamers the Series was kind of was that. It was the idea of it was going back to the original Gamers and taking that ending that it had. We've been asking this question for ever since, so what, I want to do something with these characters. They're wandering around in the real world now, and I want to know what's happening to them. And it's kind of neat that Humans in Households has now taken place, and that we've got various, we've got Dorkness Rising, and we've got a lot of these different things that we can sort of play with and connect the dots. And so Gamers the Series, so we had pilot season with Zombie Orpheus Entertainment put together a campaign to essentially, for their goal was to create ongoing content. That is a big hot button for Zombie Orpheus. They want to be constantly creating new content on a regular, sustainable basis. And that's not to say that we don't want that too, but for them, one of the goals of trying to do that was to create, okay, let's make 4 brand new shows. It's way too expensive to make all of them at the same time, so let's just take the first episode and fund those so we can kind of see what that would be like. And we learned a lot. I think Zoe learned a lot as well on how to approach a Kickstarter and how to approach the material. And so that Kickstarter failed, and I say that in a really constructive manner, because once again I felt like we came away with a lot of understanding of what worked and what didn't, and the big takeaway we got was people really wanted Gamers the Series, and they really wanted the Demon Hunters one as well. And so we've taken those 2 shows and gone back into development. And the goal really was going to try and jump back into a Kickstarter pretty quickly and get that show going. But we've hit some development stuff where we're like, well, wait a minute, let's kind of let's take this to its completion of at least the first season, and what does that look like, and how can we build that? Because when it came down to the question of, okay, we could go ahead and launch a Kickstarter, and it would be, say, $25,000 to $35,000 for the first episode, and then maybe each additional episode is a stretch goal, but that's again at another $25,000 to $35,000 each. So it's a long time in between stretch goals. It's a little bit difficult to create a campaign that can escalate from there. And additionally, what do you offer as a reward? When you have a DVD or a Blu-ray, the question that we constantly come back to is how valuable is a DVD or a Blu-ray with 10 minutes of content on it? Hard to really weigh that, and I think, I mean, for me as a customer, I don't know that I would pay $30 for 10 minutes of something that I thought was awesome. Just trying to be fair about that, so I think a better value would be 45 minutes or 50 minutes or an hour of content. And so we're coming up with a Kickstarter and coming up with an idea to basically do the first season of each show, but how do we do it affordably? How do we do it to make sure that those Kickstarters are going to succeed? And so that's just taken a little bit more careful thought about. We're not a company, or we're not a set of companies that will raise money first and then decide what to do with it. We really like to plan out how this is going to be utilized, be really good stewards of the money that we raise. I've always said that we make really small amounts of money look really big on screen, and that's something that we really like to try and push every single time. And so Gamers 4 doesn't have a script. It has we know a lot of the story. We're still kind of working with a lot of different ideas for it. Matt Vansel, I think there's just a lot of stuff in front. There's Journey Quest Season 3, there's Gamers, there's Ben's got Strowlers at Zoe. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of projects happening, and Gamers 4 can happen when we can solve a lot of those problems. And Gamers the series is really meant to set up Gamers 4 in a lot of ways. I think that one thing that would be good to clarify is that Gamers the series is intended to take place prior to the events and leading up to the events of Gamers 3. And so at least the first season or first couple of seasons of Gamers the series is going to be taking us to that point at the end of Gamers 3 and then jumping off from there. So there's a lot of, I don't know, Avengers and Marvel planning and prodding and scheming to put things together and try and be a bit overreaching. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what's important to Dead Gentlemen is that we make stuff, we make projects, and we want to keep creating that. And so we know Gamers is something that people want, and it's something that we have a lot of fun with. And so again, coming back to what is the energy, what is everybody excited about doing, and how can that lead to more Gamers or Gamers 4 or that kind of thing. That's a long answer.
Long answers are why we ask the questions.
Yeah.
But it is about time that we wrap up. Is there anything that you would like to plug, bring attention to, shout out to?
Sure. Let's see. So obviously the Kickstarter, and you'll have that link. Demon-Hunters.com is a comic about our first love, really, I think, our first movies that we ever made, called Demon Hunters. And it's the premise is that all monsters are real, all the stories are real and true, and there's a secret group of hunters that are protecting folks like us from the terrors of the night. And it's funny. And so that is something that we're constantly working on. There's also a role-playing game in development that will be available at Gen Con that sort of partners with that comic as well. And Dead.fm is our podcast where we have funny stuff that we put together, and but we also convey news and upcoming announcements, and it's just another way that we can deliver information to our fans. So I think that kind of covers it.
So if Demon Hunters has an RPG based on it, have you come full circle?
I feel like we have. You know, we made a movie about gaming,
Mm-hmm.
and then in 2008, a gaming company came to us to make a game out of our movie. That's pretty rad. Mind is blown. And so we are rebooting that game, is what's happening with that one. We're doing a brand new edition, and lots of fun. So, yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us, Don. Best of luck with the rest of your Kickstarter, although really, you don't need luck at this point.
Yeah, but we do need a little under 1,500, 15? No, math. 2,400 or so more dollars to unlock a Wayne Reynolds painting. So those of you Pathfinder people who are very knowledgeable about your artists, Wayne Reynolds is going to do a Dorkness Rising painting for us. We're very excited.
That is very exciting.
That unlocks at 72,000.
Man, Lester's going to have like all kinds of equipment now.
Oh man.
All right, listeners, it's only a few $1,000s away from that. You got 5 days to do it. I think we can make it happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the Kickstarter wraps up at what day?
Monday at 9 p.m. Pacific.
All right,
Monday
guys.
the 15th.
Excellent. Good luck once again, and thank you once again, Don.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
And what segment are we coming back to, Ryan?
I'm sorry? Oh, actually, we're going to be wrapping up unless you really want to do something else. I'm actually a little
I need
under
to know
the weather
what.
today.
I need to know what button to push.
Wrap-ups and shout-outs.
Awesome. And we'll be right back after this. And it failed. So, there it goes.
And shout-outs. Wrap-ups and shout-outs. Wrap-ups. Wrap-ups and shout-outs.
Arrow.
Okay, and we are back. Ryan?
So, thank you for joining us for episode 109 of No Direction, the Pathfinder News, Reviews, and Reviews podcast. We'd like to thank once again our guests, Don Early and Scott C. Brown from Dead Gentlemen. Once again, you can check out their Kickstarter, kickstarter.com/ you know what, go to Kickstarter and search for Dead Gentlemen. It's way faster than reading out the entire URL. Before we go, I know that I have one thing that I want to shout out to, and that is a game I picked up at Origins this past weekend. Convert. It's by Yodio Games, and it is a cool abstract game. It has chess-like elements, but here's what you're doing. You've got a, you know what, I forgot. I was playing it all weekend, but I wasn't playing with my copy. So you got 2 sets of blocks, and the board, and you are laying your blocks out. So if you're a white player, you're laying your blocks out so that it covers as many of the black spaces as possible, and you're trying to create lines. And the game on its own is really cool. It's really fun. It's really thinky, and it plays pretty quickly. But I was really excited by a lot of the little things that they thought of. So there's a velvet bottom to it so that when you're trying to rotate it on the table, it rotates with you. And there are a couple of, there we go. There's a handy graph so that you can put these blocks back into this order, because otherwise you would never get this. You would never be able to put your game away. And finally, every month they've actually got puzzles that you can play, so that if you're ever tired of just playing the game, or you're looking to play a one-on-one version, a solo version of the game, you can go onto their website, yodiogames.com, and you can find new ways that you can use all these elements. So Converge is the name of the game. It's great if you like abstract games, and if you don't like abstract games, you could make a theme. I don't know. It's Block Wars. Done. Farum, do you have anything you need to bring people's attention to?
This just sort of got announced right away, and I'm only mentioning it because I think it's cool. Paizo just announced the flip map is getting a new version. The flip map is, what are they calling it? The flip map bigger basic. And it is 47% bigger than the flip map, which I don't know how that's going to work, but it looks like it. When they show in the pictures of it, they throw a goblin on the screen for scale, and it looks like it's as big as the mega maps that Chesic puts out.
All right.
So that's a cool thing. So I just wanted to draw attention to that. I don't have anything else to shout out, but I just thought that's cool, and that means I'm going to need to find a way to get a gigantic flip map in use.
It's a good problem to have.
As it is, my gaming table's we've got a battle board that we play on, and the flip mat already kind of hangs over the edge. So
Really?
I've been thinking of upgrading my battle. Yeah, I've been thinking of upgrading it for a while now. Maybe I'll just wait to see how big the new one is and upgrade it to the new scale.
Oh, okay. I've got I got my battle top, not a battle board, but I've got battle top back there, and it is the exact same size. You can see it in the background right here. It's the exact same size as the current flip maps, so that's super convenient. All right, guys. I think that just about does it for this episode. So until next time, I'm Jefferson J. Thacker, also known as Parent.
And I am Ryan Costello Jr., and if you want to find the path, you need no direction.
Later, guys.